Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're looking at adding some stowage to the M113 builds we were doing, and this first one we didn't add a gun shield in the cargo hatch, so that's a good area to put some stowage and we just make it look like the crew's carrying some extra equipment. And this is just one way of doing storage. I'll do another video where we put stowage on the vehicles and spray them and then paint the stowage on the vehicles, because once you remove it from the sprues you're going to have a silver area where it was attached to the sprue that wasn't painted, but we could touch that up later on. So this is just one method that I use, and there's 1,000 methods that people use, but this is just one way I do it, and we'll look at it in a different video in a different way. If I quickly zoom out, we've still got the BTR 60, the BRDM 2 and the BMP 2, which if we've got any extra stuff left over, which we will have, we'll look at just adding a couple of things to them. And they're up and coming builds later on in different videos. We'll look at building them and touching them up and painting them the same as what we did the M113s, but we've got a bit of extra storage, so we'll look at adding it to them. So first I just look at the vehicles and think, right, what would look good across the top and what we've got. So I'll just move a couple of things out of the way there because I'm unorganised. And the first thing I might look at is something like this. This area here, we've got like a bag and a spade and a couple bits of personal equipment. So I'll just cut that off the sprue. And for this vehicle, I always just test fit just to make sure. I think that might look all right across the top of the APC there. So I just use, once again, same as most of the other videos, store-bought super glue, and just put a drop of super glue on the area that I want it attached to, not too much, and then I just attach that on there. And I'm just trying to give that visual effect that the vehicle's lived in, that it's used by a crew. So looking at the sprue again, I think this one down here is really good, and sometimes you can just wiggle them off. I think that's really good for this front M113, and I think that's a good spot just tucked in there. I might spin it around, something like that. Give it that look of there's not quite enough space inside the vehicle, and the crew have had to make some adjustments. And we'll go around and touch that up later on. We've still got to do crew for the vehicles. And then I look for maybe some smaller pieces that might fit on the side. So there's another couple sort of like bed rolls or a swag or a tarp that might be used by the crew. And they can be added, and of course you can add, you might have some spare machine guns, you might want to lay it on there, or anything you think of. But I just think it just sometimes just gives that visual appearance that the vehicles have been used. Some jerry cans. I'm sure someone will tell me off and say we never put jerry cans on the outside of our armoured vehicles. And just be careful with super glue. I've just overdone it a little bit there with the super glue. Even though it dries clear, I'm trying not to make too much of a mess on the vehicles. So that gives it a couple extra jerry cans. Tweezers are a good option to put stowage on top of vehicles. So that's brought them to life a little bit. And you can add as much or as little as you want. You can put more equipment on it. So if we look at, say, this tarp, and I'll just look on the vehicles for anywhere that might be a flat surface or fairly flat surface. So say across here, this gun shield, I want to make it look a little bit more appealing. Let me just put that bedroll, or that tarp across it. It's just going to make it look a little more interesting. And then things like this, so we've got this one which is a tyre, and they're tracked vehicles. And that's where I go to something like the BRDM, which hasn't been painted. Well, it's only been painted its primary colour, which is that Russian uniform green, but we'll do that in a separate video. But if I think of stowage on something like this, then there's a wheel, it's a wheeled vehicle. So and then we can touch up that paint, that silver area later with paint. So that just adds a little bit of a visual effect to that vehicle. And we can add some bedrolls, some ammunition pouches. Or some equipment pouches want to be added to the vehicle. We can slightly bend that with my fumbly fat fingers. Have a look at it on the side of the turret. Needs a little bit more. So I've just bent that using my hand. And that could be attached to that turret. And that just gives that a little bit more appeal. Not much room inside an armoured vehicle. Need to store equipment on the outside. I'm sorry, I can't get them all in the shot. And then you look at something like that we've painted here, this bright green. And something like that could be added to the APC as well. And if decided that we'll just put something else on here, and I'm going to put it on the front. So I just go along, just cut a piece out and then try and find a space for it. And that's how I add storage. We didn't get to the BMP2 or the BTR 60, but that's fine, we can cover them in another video. I'll just go and add a few little things off camera, but that's just the basics, and I normally add stowage before I start adding the crew. Thanks for watching.